Hello, everyone. This is Katana Abbott, and I want to welcome you to Smart Women Talk, where I search the world for smart women and a few good men. And this includes thought leaders, best-selling authors, change agents, and people who are really leading the way. So we have topics like money, business, health, and inspiration. So for those who are listening live, we are nearing the end of 2020. We're in the middle of a global pandemic. And many women are finding themselves, just completely overwhelmed. Maybe they've lost, as Ruth says, their mojo. They might find themselves very distracted. A lot of people are feeling depressed, their kids too. And all I can say, since we cannot change what's going on in the world, all we can change is how we react to what's going on. And that's why I'm really thrilled to have this theme that we have this month, which is creating miracles and momentum in 2020. In 2021, we're leaving 2020. So at the end of the month, you're going to be invited to join Marcy Shimoff. She's the author of the Chicken Soup for the Women's Soul series. And we'll be talking with her about how to create miracles in your life and to live in the miracle zone. And then today I've invited one of my longtime dearest friends, Ruth Klein, to talk about momentum and how to find your mojo in 2021. So we're going to talk about things like momentum strategies that can easily become marketing strategies. Ooh, I like that. And how to use your inspired action to gain momentum that is sustainable. And also how the physics of momentum, so we're going to talk about science, it sounds like, applies to business success. So let me just tell you a little bit about Ruth, and then we get to ask some questions. So Ruth Klein is an internationally known brand strategist, best-selling author of 7 books. She's a speaker, an expert celebrity branding maven for leaders, CEOs, and entrepreneurs. And she has appeared in Oprah Magazine, the Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, CNBC, Fox, CBS, ABC, NBC, let's just say them all, and as well as dozens of other media. And she works with experts, conscious leaders, and executives to help them become highly visible as thought leaders in their industry. And she helps them create lucrative businesses with powerful brands by honoring their message and communicating it through writing books, signature speeches, and purpose-driven brands. All of this is so important. So in 2019, when Ruth launched her fabulous book, Generation Why Not, she also launched a podcast called Generation Why Not. So you can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, because she's at all of them. So anyway, Ruth, how was that for an introduction, huh?
Perfect.
Okay, so welcome to Smart Women Talk. And this year, not a newbie. I mean, we've been friends for over 10 years, and you've been on the show many, many times, and you've participated in things that we've done. And I've flown out to LA and come to your branding events, which is really exciting.
Yes, yes.
So
It's
welcome.
always fun to be talking to you, whether we're on the phone or we're on a radio show. It's always it gets my juices flowing.
Yeah, it is fun. Well, I think because, we're a lot alike in the fact that we have a lot of enthusiasm. But, all of us, Ruth, right now, I mean, what are people telling you? Because all of us are finding that, we're feeling kind of stuck, maybe overwhelmed, maybe trying to distract ourselves. And then, some people are hungry. Some people, don't have work right now. I have young gals in our neighborhood that are having to stay home with their kids. And they said they're having a very hard time with this. Mm-hmm. So, what do you suggest for people to help them move forward? Do you have some tips for us on that?
Yes, I do.
I know you do.
First of all, I really want to acknowledge the hardship that a lot of people are going through. mentally,
Mhm.
emotionally, physically, even. And I really want to honor our first responders and our
Mhm.
essential workers. We could not even do what we do now if it wasn't for them. So, um, and in terms of business, I'm hearing with my business colleagues and the clients, they're afraid. They're afraid to sign up for new things. They just don't know what is next, and they don't know if many of my colleagues have lost substantial business
Yeah.
because they're still ready to work, but it took a lot of people by surprise in a lot of ways, because
Mhm.
before you knew it, there was this virus, and then things were shut down, and no one really had a chance, I think, to really catch their breath. And it took a couple of months to catch the breath, to see how we were going to pivot, how we were going to make things work. I think Katana, those companies, those businesses that had at least part of their business digital already digitized, already had courses online. I think those companies um, took less of a beating, quite honestly, because
Mhm.
part of their business model was already established for this type of scenario. For a lot of other businesses, it didn't. And I know for myself, I love this high touch. I love this one-on-one,
Yeah.
small groups. And I was going to do my downloadable platform, and I was going to do it in the summer, the third quarter. I ended up starting at the second quarter, because that's pretty much all I could do at that point. But I will tell you, as motivated as I am, and motivated as you are, but I'll speak for myself. I was fine. I was going strongly in March. I had my seventh book come out. I had a live event planned, and then I had to stop it within days. And I've never had a party for any of my books. And this was going to be my first party, and I was so excited, and it was a formal, and it was a masquerade ball, and it was only formal because I wanted to wear a long dress. That's the only reason. And it's been so long. And so that was completely curtailed. We'll have it again next year, towards the end of the year in September. But it was a pivot. It was kind of I think we all had shock absorbers at first, but I think the shock absorbers are now really thin, really, really thin. And I think you see this across, the world, where the shock absorbers are just really thin, and at this point. So that being said, what do we do with the circumstances at hand? What do we do with a business that has lost the majority of clients? What do we
And
do? Yeah.
and I'm gonna, before you say what can you do, what can we do? Can you just share? Because I really want us to be authentic right now. Can you share do you mind sharing what happened last summer?
No,
Because
no, no,
because
no,
I
not at
think
all.
that will, because if people see us, they think, oh, they're fine, they've got their radio show, but it's happening to everyone.
It's
I've
happening to
had
everyone.
my bout,
Exactly.
and I would, I always love stories, and
Yep.
people know you, they know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'd be happy to. I've shared it so many times. So in March, I was going strongly.
Yeah.
And then my clients started to wane because they were scared. And some of my clients had their money in the stock market, and the stock market tanked. I mean, it was just an unbelievable scenario. And I was all excited about my book coming out and the party, and I was going to go on a book launch. And I hired a publicist to help me with publicity. And no, nobody was interested. If it didn't have to do with politics or the virus, nobody was interested. Nobody.
Mm.
And so, there was over 20 some $1,000s that I literally flushed down the toilet between publicity and getting my book out and all that other, well over $20,000. That was a hard gulp. That was a hard gulp to manage and to accept. And so at the last minute, I went ahead and had an online book launch, and everyone had to show proof of purchase that they purchased the book. And I had over 100 people, and I was really pleased with that. And then, of course, my nature is to teach. And so I also, at that book launch, explained how I went through the process of writing my book, how I got stuck, what I did. And then I also talked about marketing. What can we do now in this situation? That was March, towards the end of March. April, I pretty much freaked out. I didn't even go for walks. I didn't go outside. I would watch the news, and I would just sit there and cry because I saw everybody hospitalized. And then finally in May, it started to get better. I started walking near my area. I wasn't even going grocery shopping. My daughter was getting me all my stuff. Then June hit. It was my birthday month. For about 2 weeks, we could go in. There was in restaurant dining, and just made it. It was wonderful. And then July hit. I completely, Katana, hit rock bottom. It was an accumulation, and I think we're all in that place where we've just, that's what I'd say the shock absorbers are running really thinly. Yeah. It's an accumulation, and now it's also a general consciousness of, I don't know if it's fear, I don't know if it's anxiety, I don't know if it's depression, I don't know if it's lack of freedom, maybe it's all of it. But in July, I lost my mojo. I didn't care if I worked. I didn't care to do interview. I didn't care to do anything. And it kind of freaked me out because I have the skills to get out of the rabbit hole, and I couldn't get myself out of the rabbit hole. And 2 weeks were going by, and all I did was berate myself. Why can't I get the mojo? Why aren't I doing this? Why aren't I productive? It was horrible. And for high achievers as yourself and myself, and I deal with high achievers all the time, those are my clients, to not be productive is emotionally painful. It is emotionally painful not to be productive.
Yeah.
And so I decided I was going to leave town and go to my little area that I go to in California, right on there was a big Morro Bay, and there's a lake there, and that's a bay, and that's where I went. And I still was, I was going to stay there for 3 days. I ended up staying there a week. And finally, the day I surrendered and said, you know what? I may never pull out of this. I may never have mojo again. Oh, well, I'm just going to accept it. When I surrendered to what is, the next day, I started getting a little bit of rumblings of something I'd like to do. Then the next day, a little bit of rumbling. And I'm going to share with you, I don't know if this was depression or what, but all I was interested in doing is having coffee, reading the Wall Street Journal, walking and watching the bay, having coffee and a dessert this time, and then picking else something that I could read. That was it. And I took naps. I don't take naps during the day. I was exhausted. I took naps. And finally, when I surrendered and just said, you know what, it is what it is. If I'm never productive again, that's the way it is. And then what happened after a couple of, and I'm writing, right? I'm journaling. Finally, as I'm journaling, I get what I call these divinely gifted downloads. We all get them. And I started to write, and it was like, oh my God, I now understand why I had to go so deeply in whatever this was, so that I could be more compassionate with others that lose their mojo. Because quite honestly, Katana, up until that time, I had never experienced, and as a result, I could never fully feel the depths of despair that I had felt. And it allowed me a level of compassion moving forward that I now have to honor other people when client or not. And this is the best part. As I'm writing, it was like, Ruth, you have the skills and look where you went. What about the people that don't have the skills? And I'm writing all this. And what came forward was you have to help others. And it came down to momentum. And I am obsessed with this word and this concept and this consciousness of momentum. And then I thought, and then what came from there is I need to put together a momentum club where I can work with 100 people, only 100 people, because I'm high touch, I can still follow 100 people. And if there's 101, I will start another group, but I will not put in more than 100 in this group. And there might be less as well. And it's going to be a year program. And I don't know if it's going to continue, maybe, but it's so exciting. And then I started getting my mojo back because it was something I was going to give to others. And I wrote all this stuff down, and I'm gonna, it's gonna be so much high touch, and the investment is so low. I'd never done anything this low before, but it shows me that it was for everyone, and I'm in complete service to be able to do this for myself as well as others. And the first week there's going to be training, live training. The second week there's going to be coaching. The third week there's going to be implementation, 2 hours of implementation. Can you imagine? You're working on something, Katana, for whatever reason, you're not moving forward. You know that on this day for 2 hours, we're going to meet on Zoom. We're going to share what we're going to do. We're going to leave for about an hour and 20 minutes. We're going to work on it. We're going to come back together, share where we are. If someone needs help in moving forward, I'm right there to walk them through it. We get off the phone again. They focus on their project. We come back 40 minutes later. How cool is that? And you know that that's going to happen every single month. You know that you have availability to talk to me in a group here, like one-on-one here, to move you forward. And there's overall training. So not only on how to do momentum, but marketing, how to enroll, how to charge what you're worth, how to value your value. It's all of that helps us move forward. And from there, Katana, the next with the journaling came down when I was still at Morro Bay. It was like, oh my gosh, that's what the new book, Generation Why Not, is all about. It's quantum synchronicity. Quantum being very, very small, and synchronicity, 2 or more things that happen out of the possibility of the universe. And it was like, this is just too good. This is all coming together far better than I would never even have thought of it.
So what do you have to say to people that are feeling that way, and then what you experienced it? It's almost, so I think that there is an opportunity for every one of us to look at what's going on and to find the gift. Because I do believe, and I just talked to a woman yesterday, and she said she had found the gift, and then she started telling me what the gift was. So now I've been asking, that's what I wrote about in the newsletter where we featured you this month, our December newsletter, is finding the gift. Because when you can shift to what's wrong, I know I was talking with Marcy Scheimoff, and she said, so you switch from what is the problem to what is the gift. And it just changes it. Would that be a momentum secret, for example?
For sure, absolutely. Okay. But before you can get there, if you're in the throes of anxiety or low mojo, you can't get there. You don't see the gift. No. There's no such thing as the gift.
Okay.
When I was in that space, the gift, I would start laughing if someone said, what's the gift, Ruth? My gift would be, well, I guess I'm getting a lot of sleep, because you're in such a consciousness. So there's a few steps before that. Number 1 is accept where you are. Surrender to what is. Say it stinks. This is awful. I don't like this. This scares me. I don't know what's going on. What I do know though is this is it. This is now. This is where I am now. The second thing I would do is I would journal. I would wake up in the morning and just start journaling. And whenever you got that feeling, whatever that feeling in the pit was, journal, just write, because you've got to express it. Expression is energy. Thought is energy. You've got to take the energy out of your body, out of your mind, because it obsesses. It goes around and around and around, and then it starts to go around and around and around. You need to stop it.
Okay.
And the way we stop it, the way we help to get that energy out is to write, take a walk. I did a lot of walking. That really helped. In terms of the energy, I was still in the rut, but at least energetically, I felt better, because that's all cramped up energy right here in the heart, in the throat, and in the mind. And you've got to get that recirculating out of you. Otherwise, it becomes toxic.
Okay.
And then it hits you physically with illness. Right now, I'm on a low grade blood pressure pill. I just started it 2.5 weeks ago, because there's such a thing as empaths. So many of your clients and so many of the women listening to this, I'm sure, are empaths. Whenever you're talking about purpose and passion and prosperity, you're talking about people that feel deeper, and they feel the lows deeper, they feel the highs deeper. And so they're empaths. And as an empath, we have a tendency to pick up the anxiety, the energy of what's around us. I have no reason to be anxious. I'm not upset. I'm not nervous about anything. I'm in a beautiful, grateful place. And yet my blood pressure was going like this, to the point where I went to the emergency room.
So you know what, so I am feeling all this energy today, like and it's what you were saying. It's all through here. And I'm going, what is wrong?
Yeah.
I have no reason to feel like this.
Exactly.
And my daughter's very empathic too. I had a wrist brace and my wrist was really hurting me. And yesterday she walked in the room. I go, why are you rubbing your wrist? She said, I don't know, my wrist is hurting. And she looks down, she goes, Mom. And I go, Ida, you're just an empath, empath. I know this.
That's exactly
and I
right.
said, is there anything wrong with your wrist? And she said, no. But as soon as I came in here, it just started hurting really bad. So so I'm wondering how many people on this call are feeling this, and maybe they don't have a bunch of bad things. They're dealing with it, but then, I mean, they have good things happening in their life. Because my husband's still working and everything, but then there must be all this energy that's flowing around.
Absolutely.
So we're actually picking it up.
Absolutely. I'm convinced about that. Absolutely.
Wow.
I don't even look at the news anymore. I don't read the news, but even on my phone, I'm looking at an app, and then all of a sudden I see, COVID is spreading crazily, and the hospitals there's no room left. And then we have further lockdowns, and it does something to the consciousness. Yeah. And this is why we often say, and your listeners know this, that what happens in Somalia affects us here in America. What happens in Tokyo affects us here in America. Mm-hmm. It's consciousness. And this whole idea of quantum synchronicity, Katana, Carl Jung, who is a famous psychologist, this whole idea of synchronicity is consciousness. He came up with it's consciousness, that this level of consciousness, when you're open to possibility, when you are at a higher energy level of love, of peace, of gratitude, of all of that, the universe opens up, the consciousness opens up to synchronicities. Earlier I was on a call and I was leading a webinar, and someone that was on the webinar, she goes, this webinar is such perfect timing. And she checked her Instagram, and there was a free there was going to be a free class on exactly what she needed next. That's synchronicity. And you know,
Is that your word? Is that a word you coined?
no,
Synchronicity?
I coined quantum synchronicity.
Okay.
And Carl Jung, coined synchronicity.
Okay.
That's when two
I've heard
alleged,
you use it.
it's quantum synchronicity is what
Okay.
is that
And
the
that's at a
seven
totally
crystal.
bigger level, the quantum synchronicity. What does that
Exactly. So the quantum, we didn't really understand quantum until quantum physics came onto the scene. And when quantum physics came onto the scene, it was very different than the Newtonian way of looking at physics. The Newtonian way of looking at physics was, you know, here's a pen, and this it can only do X, Y, Z. Then quantum physics, it very simplistically said, then quantum physics comes about, and all of a sudden, there's more to this pen than what I can see. There's even more to this pen that I can even measure. In fact, when I try to measure it, it goes off the scale. What's that about? And there are energies around this that we couldn't see before. And still we can't understand many of them. And so scientists aren't really, in the past, scientists haven't really honored, I'm going to say, the laws of nature, not the laws of nature, but laws of abundance, the laws of attraction. And then all of a sudden, Einstein comes around and goes, wait a minute, you know, and he's a brilliant mathematician. Wait a minute, there's more to all of this, huh? And if you don't believe that there's more to this, then I don't know what to say. That's Einstein.
Right.
And the beginning of there's more to science than what meets the eye. There's more to science than what you can measure or see. There's more to science than this is the source and this is the result. There's more. There could be more in between. Huh. And that's that quantum physics. And then, you know, quantum physics allowed us to have MRI machines. Quantum physics allowed us to open up the whole medical world to us. Whereas before, in a Newtonian world, we could never see that. We would never even think to see that.
Because it was physical only, yes. Okay.
Yeah, so it's exciting, and
Yeah.
we're living in some of the most exciting times of knowledge opening up to us, and the knowledge that is being opened up to us is knowledge that is off the charts. How cool is that?
That is
How
really
cool is that? How cool is it that, you know, the law of gravity, I can't see the law of gravity, but it definitely works. And if I take this pen and I let go of it, I can then see the law of gravity. But before that, I couldn't see it. So does that mean it doesn't work? And I know that when I put a switch, a light switch is going to turn on. And if it doesn't, I know it's the light bulb that's out. I just know it, but it doesn't, I can't see it.
right.
If the switch is off. So that's, you know, it's really very wonderful. And I often say, when I was getting my degree, my master's degree in spiritual psychology, I remember taking a walk with a friend, and it was just the beginning of sunrise, and the moon was still out. And I remember walking, it was like 6 a.m. or something. I go, oh my God, that's gorgeous. And then I said, look at the moon. And we turned around, and you couldn't see the moon because a cloud went in front of the moon. And I remember thinking, wait a minute. And I literally said this, just because I can't see it doesn't mean it's not there.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so now you take that and quantum synchronicity, and you start to create your brand, let's say, for example, or you start to create your momentum, and it exists even though you can't see it yet.
So you're
But
saying that your brand is there even though you can't see it.
absolutely. Absolutely. And momentum, your momentum is already here. but you may not be able to see it yet. So what do we do in a case like that? What do
I'm
we do?
curious. What are you going to tell us? Because I know you have an answer for us, don't you? You know, I always think, and I do prayers like, I'll pray and I'll say, God, please, please just make this happen because I can't figure it out, but I know in the future I'm doing it. So can't you just speed it up and just give me the download now because this is exhausting.
It's true. It
Because I
is.
know it's in me. It's just trying to get it out. Isn't that true? It's
It
inside
is.
of us,
It is.
but
It
it's
is
trying to get it.
yes. And all the questions that we have, the answers are already inside of us. They really are. But sometimes we try so hard, we squish it.
Yeah.
It's all energy. And we squish that. We stop it
And,
because we try
Ruth,
too
how in
hard.
the world, when we're feeling what you just did, because I've been feeling this all day today. Well, a dear friend of ours just died too.
Uh,
So, I mean,
Sorry.
yeah. And so that's there too, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
when we're feeling all twisted like this,
Hmm.
we can't have momentum.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
let's talk about this momentum because I think it's so important, but how do we grasp it or how do we release it? What do we do to
Okay.
do
So
that shift?
that's a good question. So in order to have momentum, there has to be action. Otherwise, it's stagnant, it's
Mhm.
stale, it's
Okay.
quiet, nothing's going on. So you must have action. So with momentum, again, taking a walk, that's action. You're going to get momentum just by taking a walk. You're going to get momentum by meditating. You're doing nothing, but what you're doing is you're opening up channels. You're opening up energetic pathways to be able to breathe, to be able to calm down. All of this is important. The other thing with momentum is journaling. That's a really big one. Just the action of writing, that's an action, writing. And it forces you to be able to take what you're thinking and express it on paper. That's all energy as well. Um, Another thing to do is identify one thing you want to do for the day. That's it. Because when I was at the lowest of the lows and I started coming back, what I found was if I over packed my day with what I wanted to do, I'd go right back to the loss of momentum. I
What
would
about the to-do list? That sounds like
forget
that's
the to-do list. Forget the to-do list. When you are low on momentum, when you've lost your mojo, you want to do one item, one thing, and that might be sitting down at the piano and playing and just hitting the keys. It might be listening to one song and dance to that music. That's it. Why? Because you want to be able to gain your confidence back again,
Mhm.
that you can get something done. And even though it's not your business, it will roll in. It's a domino effect.
Mhm.
Once, if I'm productive and I have a good exercise session, then I'm ready to go. I've got momentum, I've got energy. I can now use that, transpose that into my business. If I've got energy, singing for me, if I sing out loud with the YouTube someone, that gives me energy. That gives me confidence and it gives me energy. Okay, I've got some mojo here, and that can pull over to my business. I'm only going to do one thing for my business. I have to do an email and I have to email someone. That's the one thing. Oh, I got it done. I know it sounds silly, but you feel so good that you actually got something done. And then from there, because you're not going to want to force yourself, if you want to, you can do the next thing, but only one thing. One. Now, for
Mhm.
a high achiever, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's how we see it. That's just silly. That's ridiculous. What's going to happen with one thing? But I will tell you, at that point, you've got to be able to you've got to be able to accept the fact that things are not they're not normal right now for you, and that's okay. That's okay. It is what it is. That's a very important statement. It is what it is right now. It is what it is right now. Doesn't mean it's going to be this way in 10 minutes. Doesn't mean it's going to be this way in 10 days. But right now, something about saying right now puts us present. I can go, okay, just for right now, just for right now, I can take a break. Just for right now, I am safe. Just for right now, I'm going to choose one thing to do. Just for right now. It's really being kind to yourself.
Mhm.
It's really being nurturing to yourself. And then you do the one thing, and then you believe it, you gain confidence with that one silly email. And you can hear my metaphor, my adjective, silly, because that's what it is to a high achiever.
Yeah.
But the reality is that's what's necessary.
Mhm.
That's what's necessary. And something else is I have a whole new appreciation for Mondays. I used to want to take my Mondays slow, start the day. That's the worst thing. That's the worst thing I can do if I'm teetering on mojo, if I'm teetering on momentum. And so I have a meeting at noon every Monday with a colleague, and we talk about business. And at the end of that hour, I'm energized. I'm energized. And I find for me, the rest of the day, I'm productive.
Yeah.
And last night or late yesterday afternoon, because I usually like to put my day work at 4 o'clock, but I think it was around 5:30. I needed to make some calls, and I didn't feel like it. But because the day was so productive, there was a little bit of energy left in there, and I made 3 calls. And I can't tell you how literally how proud I was of myself, Katana.
Then that's just amazing that that even you were hit with this issue with the momentum. So, I was thinking you had talked about some things that we can do, surrender to journal, walking. I'm thinking I just finished a weekend thing where we talked about anti-aging, and a huge thing was meditating every day, and it actually grows the brain.
Hmm. Yeah.
So we can do, and so I can see the walk, the meditating. What are some other things we can do for momentum?
Okay. So momentum, for example, is identify 5 people in business, 5 people that you want to call, that you want to just see how they're doing. They might be colleagues, they might be potential clients, and you just choose 5 or you choose 3.
Okay.
And just having that, you look forward to it and you make those calls. And what you'll find is when you can get outside of yourself, when you can get outside of your mind, and now you're listening and you're sharing what's coming from with you, and you're sharing and you're listening to someone else, and they ask, you ask them, so what are you up to, what are you doing now in your business, and they ask you what you're doing in your business. That gives you an opportunity to share what a new program is, or share the coaching with them, or share whatever it is that you have. That's an outstanding, whether it's COVID land or no COVID land, that's an outstanding momentum strategy that also acts as an excellent marketing strategy.
Mhm.
Okay. Another momentum strategy is, remember, we talked a lot about the journaling piece. Turn it into a blog. Turn it into a blog. So, for example, um, even though I'm not an expert on relationships, I'm going to write a blog. It just came down on why COVID, basically the 3 myths of why COVID isn't a good time to meet someone.
Mhm.
It's a myth. And there are 3 myths that I came up with. And just the idea of writing that article gets me excited, because I was sharing some stuff with some people, and it just hit me, and I was journaling, and now I'm going to turn it into a blog. And then you can take that blog. So that's where the momentum comes in. It's natural. It's something that you're thinking. Put it on paper, journal, convert it to a blog. It turns into a marketing strategy, and then you slightly change it, and you get it submitted to Medium, or you get it submitted to Thrive Global, or you check some other online place and you submit it. That becomes now a marketing strategy that started with momentum.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just very, very small quantum. We often hear the word quantum leap, and we believe it's a large leap, and a lot of your marketers try and say it's a large leap. No, the word quantum is very, very small, and all,
Really?
yeah,
So we think
quantum.
quantum leap
It's
is,
it's a quantum leap, small,
wow.
to the word quantum. And so all you need to do to keep momentum going is to remember one thing: take small steps consistently. And that allows for synchronicity, possibility to pop up. Small, consistent steps. That's it.
And also it's not just who this is true, it's who they know. So when you call those 5 people and you begin talking about some projects you're working on and asking them about what they're working on, all of a sudden it expands to everyone in both of your networks. And
Absolutely.
then you're like, oh, and you would be great for my friend's summit, or you
Yeah.
should be on her show, or, it's just like I showed up and I did a speech. I did a talk last, oh gosh, I can't believe it, 1 year ago, November, before COVID hit. And I had broken my ankle the day I went to the doctor and get this cast on me. I have to go speak to this group. And I could have canceled because I was doing it for free. It was a nonprofit.
Uh-huh.
I go there and, the women are like clapping, and I did such a good job and I felt so good about it. And what happened next? The publishers of a magazine were there, and they called me later and asked me to be their cover girl. And then after publishing the magazine, I didn't even know it was going to be printed. They shipped me a box of magazines.
Wow. Wow. That's, see,
Just
that's
for showing
synchronicity.
up.
Right. That's small steps, no pun intended, even though you broke your foot, and the synchronicity. Yeah, it's very, very powerful. Another strategy, a momentum strategy, we hear this word all the time, and it's gratitude. But
Mhm.
it's basically a gratitude shift. It's a gratitude shift. And even when I was in the throes of that low mojo or none at all, I was still grateful that I had a family, that we were healthy, that I could breathe, that I was here, in this little tiny town, that the coffee shop was still open. I mean, I still was able to be grateful, and gratefulness as a very, very high energy uh, quotient to it, very high energy. And if you're feeling, as I mentioned this webinar to you, there's someone by the name of David Hawkins who wrote a book called Power versus Force. It's phenomenal.
Oh, yeah.
And he talks about the different levels of consciousness. And the higher levels of energy of consciousness is power, and the lower levels are force. And the force are the angry and the frustration and grief and all of that. And force is limiting. Power is unlimited. And when you think of the words force versus power, you immediately think of political figures or leaders of industry that have had a force type of leadership style or a powerful leadership style.
Yeah.
We want to follow the one that's the powerful. We don't want to follow the force, because we're fearful of that. We're
Yeah.
fearful of those people, and we want to emulate the ones that are of the power, of the love, of the gratefulness, of the willingness, of all the other higher levels of consciousness. And so when I asked the group, what is your level of consciousness in the morning, afternoon, and evening? And one honest soul said that she was in the consciousness of the power, which was, I think, willingness and openness in the morning and afternoon. But by the evening, Katana, she was the lower, under the force, where she was exhausted and burnt out.
But okay, but a lot of people feel that way at the end of the day, right?
Right. And
And they want to
so,
come cocoon at home and
she feels burnt out. But here's the danger in that. Burnout is accumulative. By the time we feel burnout, we're burnt. We're
yeah.
burnt. Plus, it's accumulation. So there's nothing wrong with it, but it's excellent feedback.
Okay.
It's excellent feedback. So then we go back and we go, okay. I go, what's going through your mind? What happens between morning, afternoon, and the evening? She goes, by the evening, then I have to do everything. I've got, children, and I've got wash, and I've got dinner, and I've got all of this. And I can't prioritize. I'm not good at prioritizing, she said. Aha, that's the feedback. That's what I was listening for something. I was listening for something that I could help her with, and that was it. So we went through what a day might look like. Since she's already taken the last 2 days, 9 a.m. to 12 noon for this webinar, what if she transposes that into focused work hours? Would that work? Yes, it does. And then I had first suggested to go until 1:30, but she can't. She has to make lunch. No problem. You stop at 12. You take an hour and 15 minutes off. You're with your family. You make lunch. You feel good about it. You come back for another hour and a half. Because at the end of the day, this is another momentum strategy, which is also an excellent marketing strategy. And that is, we only need 4 to 5 hours focus time a day. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Think about it. It doesn't include walking around and looking at the refrigerator. It doesn't include checking out Facebook unless it has to do with you're doing marketing on Facebook. Think about it. 4 focused hours a day to 5. And I am a true believer. That's how I can leave. That's how my day can end at 4. That, I don't work weekends. When I used to give speeches on weekends, I would feel guilty because I really want to honor my time off. I
Yeah.
really want to honor my mind, my body, and my spirit. And I need that, Saturday just takes me all day Saturday just to unwind, it seems sometimes. And then Sunday, I'm ready to go, but I don't work. I don't. I take an extra day and I do, I'm with the family, or I go for walks, or whatever that might look like, or do nothing, which for me says a lot. And that's another momentum. That's another momentum strategy. It's not about working from morning till night and all weekends. That's going to kill your momentum, and it's definitely going to kill your productivity.
Mm-hmm.
It's counterintuitive, because the mind, physiologically, Katana, the mind can only handle so much pressure at a time,
Mm-hmm.
and then it needs a break.
So what about all of us sitting at computers all the time? I mean, that has to be just detrimental
It is.
for momentum.
Absolutely, it's detrimental. So here's what I do. I take my trustworthy phone and I set it, because I'll forget. I set it for every 50 minutes to 55, 60 minutes, and I put the alarm on. And that forces me, I finish what I'm going to do. And sometimes in the middle of something, I go, ah, man, but I know I have to circulate. I need my oxygen circulated.
Yeah.
My blood vessels need to circulate. And, I think there's studies now that when you stay seated for hours and hours and hours, it's like smoking a lot of packs of cigarettes, I
Right.
believe, a day. And
Yeah.
so it forces me, and all I need to keep the momentum, to keep the energy, keep the momentum going. And I need a free creative zone. I don't want to think about anything, but I just need a creative outlet. I'll put Alexa on and I'll listen to a song for 3 minutes and I rock out. And I stand up and I rock out in the front room for about 3 minutes. And then I'm ready to go again.
And your whole energy has shifted again.
Completely, because I've changed my physical being. And when I change my physical being, my emotional being changes. And because I'm listening to something upbeat, which I like to do, and I love to move and I love to dance, it makes me happy. And when I'm happy and when I'm up and when I just can let my mind just go, and I come back and I go, oh yeah. And lots of times I'm dancing and I'm moving around and I get an idea. And then that propels excitement too.
Wow. Well, Ruth, I think all of us need momentum. Your program sounds so wonderful. How are people going to join it, and when are you launching it? Now, I
Yeah.
know we're going to be promoting it, and
Yes,
we did
thank
put a
you.
promotion in our newsletter. So
Thank
anyone
you.
who is on our list, look at the newsletter we just sent for December with Ruth and Marcy both in it. And you can just click there and they get this wonderful gift that I love, that PDF you created. So tell us about that.
So everyone, if you go to the newsletter or go to the Smart Women's Empowerment,
Our
and
Facebook page, yes.
yes, and you'll be able to, we have a download, and it's 20 strategies for to leverage momentum.
Yeah.
And many of those are marketing as well. And I didn't even know that when I started putting it together. I go, oh my gosh, this is so cool.
Yeah.
And then the it's called the Momentum 100 Club, and you can join now, and you get all kinds of perks when you join now. You get extra VIP time with me, which you get thousands of dollars of extra perks. And it's only $127 a month. So people can pay monthly, or if you want to save, I think it's over $300, you can do a one-time payment of $1,200. But the more important thing, it starts in January. If you sign up by December 31st, you get a lot of awesome perks. And you get special time with me as well, and a lot of VIP things as well. So that's it.
So Ruth, do you have a page they can go to on your website, or can they email you right now?
Yeah, they can email me at rklein@ruthklein.com, Klein. And we'll get it on the website, but we don't have it right now, but we will. But it's rklein@ruthklein.com. And just
Okay.
put in the subject line, Momentum 100 Club, and I'll get back to you.
That's great. And I just realized that we are out of time. So I need to say goodbye. Thank you so much for being here. And
My
everyone, have a wonderful holiday season. And we will see you again when Marcy is here. Until next show, which is in 2 weeks, go out and live with more purpose, passion, and prosperity.
Beautiful.